Conference Committee knew this clause was there. But yes, you'd be very surprised. You'd be very surprised about how few people have actually read the bill who voted for it. And it passed, again, most people in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee passed this bill unanimously. It passed the floor unanimously. There was a huge interest in having a long-term relationship with Pakistan instead of just these year-by-year increments. And so I think our senators and congressmen, this was now a bill from both houses, would be very surprised at the reaction here.
Madam Ambassador, is there any chance that if you are considering that many of the senators have voted just without knowing the real picture of Pakistan, is there any possibility that probably this very clause will be eliminated from the bill?
The bill is essentially a done deal, as we say. And our legislative process is so complicated that it would be very difficult to send the bill back to Congress. It's taken a year to get this passed. And again, most Americans on the Hill and in the administration see this as a very considerable victory.
It would be a victory for you, as I don't know how would I interpret it over here in Pakistan. If this clause stands, whether the senators are aware of it or not, whether what you are saying in this interview, it doesn't make any difference. If this clause stands in the U.S. financial bill, it implies, not even implies, it states in a statement that the ISI and the Pakistan military is involved in sponsoring terrorism. They should stop it.
It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. What it requires is a report within the U.S. government. But again, let's focus on the bigger picture here, which is the commitment on our behalf to the Pakistani people.
We'll come on that. But this is the seizing support. This is the English, which you give me an interpretation of that. This is
I've read the bill now at this point many times. But again, let's sort of get past this and focus on the broader picture here. We'll sit down with political parties. Obviously, again, as I say, we've done an inadequate job, and explain to them the bigger picture here.
Right. You haven't given my answer to my question, but anyhow, I'll move forward to it because I don't want to waste time on this very particular question. Your Section 302 monitoring report says an assessment of the extent to which the government of Pakistan effective civilian control of the military, including oversighting improving chain of command in Pakistan military, promotion for senior military leaders. We have a setup over here. Don't you think that you have caused a trouble for this civilian government, and you have also put yourself into the internal mechanisms of Pakistan military? Why you need to put this over there in this fund?
Well, let me back up a minute. Yes, I think that's probably a mistake, and I think people in our military would see that as a mistake because they have a very specific, for instance, promotion system within the U.S. military, and while it goes to our Congress and it is blessed by our administration, it's extraordinarily rare for our civilians to interfere in a military promotion process. I think what the drafters of that portion of the bill were trying to do were respond to the enormous concerns and frankly the deteriorating image of the United States because of our support for President Musharraf. So they were trying to support, obviously rather inadroitly, civilian control of the military, which we think is an enormously important structural issue, and democracies are ultimately better strategic partners for the United States. So I do think, I can see why people are offended by that, and I can certainly see why the military is offended by that. But I think the intention was well-meaning. It was poorly written and poorly drafted.
You think it's a mistake?
I think it could have been done in much more sensitive fashion.
Don't you think it's going to politicize the military when you are going to go after, the generals are going to go after the Prime Minister?
I don't think it's going to politicize the military at all. I was frankly very impressed with how the military handled this yesterday. What the military said, what ISPR said, was that they conveyed their concerns, they raised their concerns as one would expect them to do, and then they referred them to the government and to the parliament. There is no better example of civilian control of the military than what happened yesterday.
There are reports in the newspapers everywhere that probably the government has pushed you to put this clause into the bill.
That's totally untrue. I say unequivocally, without doubt, that's totally untrue.
So you have taken this initiative to control the Pakistan Army, or civilian authority should control the Pakistan Army by yourself. This is your own initiative.
This was a version of this, I recall, was in the earlier versions of the bill, which actually, keep in mind, drafts of this bill have been around a long time. It was trying to respond to the concerns, particularly of civil society, I think, in Pakistan, about American support for military dictatorships, and as I say, it's inadroitly done.
How would it control or would discourage any future military intervention? Because whenever a military general comes in, there's a political climate of Pakistan is a different thing, you see. Political parties in Pakistan, they invite martial laws, they welcome martial laws. How this particular
But I can't comment on that. What I can say is, again, this is how we need to listen to each other better. The United States got an enormous amount of criticism from you, from civil society in Pakistan, from the press, from the opposition political parties about supporting a military dictatorship. I understand that. And so this was an attempt to reinforce civilian control over the military, and as I say, it wasn't very well done.
But as a matter of fact, as you are aware, that this very clause has brought, which you are calling a mistake, has brought civil and military face to face. Many people are saying that probably this government, if this government fails in the parliament to get this bill passed, what credibility this government is left with?
Well, first of all, again, I think it's utterly appropriate that the parliament debate this bill. That's certainly what parliaments should do. And again, the parliament should focus on what the bill really says about health and education and agriculture and support to the people of Pakistan. But this element is just as I say, badly done, I think. What we were trying to convey, I think the drafters were trying to convey, was the United States wants civilian control of the military. I think most Pakistanis want that too. I think the military wants that too. I think that's a shared objective.
But probably in a way to dictate the terms to them through a U.S. financial bill, that how they should control their command and chain?
No, again, our military would be offended about that too. Promotions, as I explained, chain of command, that's all within the military. I agree, that's badly done.
Right, so when you say it's badly done, what is the rectification like? Is there any way that you can undo it or you change the language?
No, the bill, as I say, is basically complete, and it'll go to the President's desk and it'll be signed by the President in a few days.
So how would the concern of Pakistan military be addressed if you're not going to change the language of this bill?
But again, the concern of the Pakistani military, this is just a clause in a bill that we have to write a report on. And again, what I thought was really quite dramatic yesterday was the respect that the Pakistani military showed toward the government and toward the parliament and toward the constitutional process. So it's just a report. It's just a report.
Well, the Pakistan military is not as optimistic as you're assuming, because they said it is against the national security, these clauses. Against the national security. If the Pakistan parliament would accept it, that means military is saying to them, before the parliament passes it, that you are passing a bill that has the clauses that is against national security.
I disagree. It's not against Pakistan's national security.
You disagree with the Pakistan Army?
I disagree that the clause is against Pakistan's national security. But I disagree with that. Again, I think these are just reports, and I think we should look again, as I say, at the broader picture. It's not just the development assistance. Actually, most security assistance is not even covered by this bill. And there's very substantial assistance going to the Pakistani military, not to mention the coalition support funds, in a separate account that has nothing whatsoever to do with this bill. So we have a very substantial commitment to the Pakistani army that has nothing to do with the provisions in this bill.
Well, Ambassador, what if this tension between the two escalates and probably the system would be derailed? Where the U.S. would stand?
It's not going to escalate. I mean, you have a new democracy. You have an extremely responsible military leadership. It's not going to escalate.
How can you say that it won't escalate? Pakistan has a history of military intervention.
It has a history of military intervention, but yes, of course. And that's why I think most Pakistanis want to see steady civilian rule. It does have a history of military intervention. I think most people here in Pakistan want to get beyond that. And frankly, I think most people in the military want to get beyond that too. And they want to support the civilian government. There's every indication that